So cryptocurrency is definitely a hot topic.
When we say cryptocurrency, most people are going to know Bitcoin because that's the big one. That was the original of this era, and it was originally introduced in 2009.
They're, buying or selling real estate, renting real estate, using crypto as the transaction.
Yeah, so it's already happening. I think within 10 years, you're going to see that as probably more common than cash methods.
Okay. If I have a rental property, what would be the main advantage of encouraging like a tenant to pay me in crypto, or vice versa? If I'm a tenant and I want to pay my landlord in crypto, what would be the argument for that? How would I convince them to?
Ethereum, which is built on the premise of smart contracts.
Okay.
So you're writing contracts on the Ethereum network that can be executed.
Really?
Yeah.
Hey guys, it's Rodrigo, founder with Asheville Real Estate News. Really excited about bringing you another episode. We're going to be talking about cryptocurrency and real estate today, so stay tuned. Now, before we jump into it, just a couple of house cleaning items. Just remember to sign up for our email newsletter. You can go to the website for that. And also, for anybody who's on the newsletter, if you're listening to this, we got an opportunity to offer you a discount for Real Estate 101, which is being hosted by CREO, or the Carolina Real Estate Investors Association. So sign up to their newsletter, get more information on that, or just send us a direct message on Facebook or Instagram, and we can share those details with you. If you like this one, if you found it interesting, go ahead and share it. Let us know that you liked it. Go to Apple Podcasts and Instagram and Facebook. Watch the videos and let us know what you think. All right. Nicole, thanks so much for joining us today, talking crypto.
Thanks for inviting me out.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, obviously, Asheville's a growing place and kind of similar to the real estate and everything and crypto. So everything's on the up and up. I've been here since 2009. Are you from Asheville or?
Since 1989.
Oh, so pretty much.
Yeah, there was a gap when it actually really grew that I was gone, but happy to be back now.
Yeah, very cool. So when did you get back? What's your most recent?
2015 is when I moved back and built a house here right around the corner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything specific that drew you back, or is it just like a bunch of different events that just led it up to it?
I always wanted to come back. When I left, I had full intention of coming back. I didn't think it would take 8 years, but glad it finally worked out.
Yeah, when I first moved here, I was convinced I was going to leave within a year to go out west to Colorado or something. I was like, there's just so many good reasons not to leave.
Yeah, I think it's the best place to live.
Yeah, absolutely. So cryptocurrency is definitely a hot topic, and I know on a lot of the people I talk to in real estate, there's a little bit of an overlap, and it seems like it's going to be more of an overlap in the future. And maybe before we even get into the real estate, could you give us the background that you have in cryptocurrency and then maybe like the really 30, 60-second definition of it or explanation?
Yeah, so I actually got into cryptocurrency for what I would say is the wrong reasons, just looking at it as an investment at first. Learned some tough lessons that way and made some money that way, but at the end of the day, what it propelled me to do was really learn about it. So I have been basically full-time job hours, 6 to 8 hours a day learning about cryptocurrency, blockchain, and the future implications it's going to have on our world for the last couple of months. And so it's really become my passion over time. And I can give you a little bit of background. So when we say cryptocurrency, most people are going to know Bitcoin because that's the big one. That was the original of this era. And it was originally introduced in 2009. Didn't really have any value for a couple of years after that. Do you know the story of how Bitcoin gained value?
I've always heard like Silk Road, and that was the only thing I heard. Yeah. That was back, in a long time, previous life type of things.
That's dark web stuff. But actually, Bitcoin first gained its value when it was exchanged for pizza. So somebody bought 2 pizzas for 10,000 Bitcoins.
Wow.
When they had,
no value.
Practically no value, but that's what first put them on the market as having some type of value. And over, less than a decade, we saw the high at the end of 2017 at $20,000 per Bitcoin. We've obviously had a correction since, but it's on the upswing.
What's it at
today? Last I looked was probably an hour and a half ago. It was about $8,300. Wow. So it's been swinging a lot, but it's to be expected after such an explosion. There's a lot of factors in the world that went into that correction, which are easily explained. Yeah.
So from 2009 till when you got into it, you said it was about a year ago, give or take?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
What caught your eye about it, or what was your I'm going to look into this and double down on it moment?
Yeah, so as I mentioned at first, as an investment opportunity where I made a lot of money really quickly and then I lost a lot of money really quickly. But I think that's a really important lesson to have when you first get into a brand new technology like this. And I didn't really understand what it was. And when I started to look into it, I realized, well, this is so much more than just an investment that you buy and hold or that you make percentages off of. So what Bitcoin and what many of the other cryptocurrencies are a peer-to-peer way of transitioning value from one person to another without a third party. And it's decentralized, which means that nobody owns it. It's super cheap to transact, and you can send $10 million to somebody on the other side of the world for a very, very small fee in a very fast amount of time compared to what would happen if you, say, went to wire it through banking systems. So that's it at a very high level. There's aspects of anonymity to it, which people also like, but it's also irrefutable. There's never been a mistake in terms of transactions actually following through. So everything is recorded on the kind of the backbone, which is called the blockchain, if you've heard of that.
Heard of it?
Yeah.
It's like
so that's kind of your digital ledger.
Around,
it's your digital ledger where all the transactions are recorded, and it goes beyond just what we would call kind of money, crypto money transactions as well, which does play into real estate. Yeah.
So obviously it's a heady topic, right?
Yeah.
And as you got into it, has there been something that you've been surprised to learn about? I don't know, maybe it can be as simple as the pizza story. I didn't know that.
I think the thing that really compelled me to want to be part of this world and to want to educate people about it and help them get involved was when I realized the implication that it has on kind of the other 6 billion. So here in America and in other third world countries, we're fortunate enough to have access to everything from clean drinking water to banking, which is something we take for granted. So
on the banking note, I grew up in Bogota, Colombia. And you go just to go deposit a check sometimes, and you can be in line for an hour and a half to 2 hours just to nothing crazy, Here, how long does that take? You can do it off your smartphone,
off your phone.
Right? It's crazy.
Exactly. And so the exact number of people is unknown because census kind of only tracks head of household, but there are literally billions of people on this planet who have no access to banks, really to any funds other than, their local government currencies, which are, in many cases like mafias or organized crime units, both the government and the banking system. So for the first time, if they have a $20 Android phone where they can text, they can become part of the global economy. And I really think through crypto. And I think it's really the way that we're going to bring all those other billions of people into the world and to give them opportunities. So that to me is really very exciting because, if you're from Colombia, you know a little bit about corrupt governments, but
just a little.
But so it affects everything from governments that devalue money without giving people the opportunity to exchange their money, which is what happened in India a little over a year ago. The government goes on the air, the radio, TV, whatever, and announces in 4 hours the 2 largest bills we have are no longer valuable, which was the 500 and 1,000 rupee bills. Not only that, banks are closing for the next 2 days while we figure this out. Well, the banks reopened, and somehow someone got in and replaced all those small bills that are still valid with all the large bills. Somehow, we don't know. And so
mass
much
chaos ensued.
It was mass chaos. People were in line for ATMs to withdraw the little that they had for hours and hours. People were dying waiting for medical care. And crazy. It's still affecting the country today. Yeah.
Wow, that's Yeah, that was super insightful. Haven't personally taken any time to look into the crypto world or anything like that, and it's just here, but that was a really good idea of what's going on, and obviously the implications of it are huge. Now, if we bring it back stateside, and we're talking about real estate specifically, is there going to be an overlap, in your opinion, between either buying or selling real estate, renting real estate, using crypto as the the transaction?
Yeah. So it's already happening. I think within 10 years, you're going to see that as probably more common than cash methods.
Okay.
I think within 10 years, our banking system is going to look very different. But it's already happening. And the only thing that needs to happen is for the buyer and the seller to agree that they can pay in crypto, or it's mostly Bitcoin transactions that are happening. And then in some cases, that's great. The seller wants to receive Bitcoin, especially if they're investors, so that they can hold it as it grows over time. And then there have been other cases where the buyer wanted to pay in Bitcoin, the seller wanted US dollars, and all they do is they take their Bitcoin, they go through an exchange, and they produce US dollars based on the local market or the market value
whatever
of that
it's trading
time.
at, When you're doing those exchanges, can the exchange go directly, like from in the example you gave? I'm the buyer, so you're the seller, and I want to pay you with Bitcoin, but you want US dollars. Does the exchange send you the US dollars directly, or do I have to exchange it and then get the dollars and then wire you the dollars?
I would think you would have to exchange it first. I'm not sure how that whole transaction happens.
I'd have to pull the dollars back out to myself. And
and it would depend also, I think, what type of crypto was agreed to be paid in, because they all function a little bit differently in different exchanges. The bigger ones are easier to kind of maneuver in that that regard. Yeah.
So do you think you're gonna? It seems like crypto. A lot of people are involved in it, but at the same time, it's still pretty niche. It's just a buzzword. Do you think it's going to be used for like rental purposes as well, or is it more just on a buy and sell? And like maybe what would be the advantage of, like, if I have a rental property, what would be the main advantage of encouraging like a tenant to pay me in crypto, or vice versa? If I'm a tenant and I want to pay my landlord in crypto, what would be the argument for that? How would I convince them to change?
Yeah. So right now, from everything I've read, the way that real estate exchanges are happening is it's almost like a cash payment. You can think of Bitcoin as a digital cash. So if I can pay in full, then that's an easy transaction. However, there are other cryptocurrencies out there. The second biggest one, which is called Ethereum, which is built on the premise of smart contracts.
Okay.
So you're writing contracts on the Ethereum network that can be executed.
Really?
Yeah,
wow,
and this isn't happening yet to my knowledge, but there will be things like almost like escrow reserves, where things can be executed. It's all written in code.
And so Ethereum's blockchain as well, because I know there's a couple of cryptos that aren't on blockchain. They're on some.
The big ones
I forget
are.
what they're called. But,
the big ones are.
And so the contracts on Ethereum, though, they're all part of the blockchain code then, so they're secure.
Yeah, they kind of have their own that are written on top of that network.
Wow.
So I think you'll be able to see things that don't have to necessarily be paid in full. And to answer your question, why would I want to accept crypto as a payment? Well, the law of supply and demand is going to show that over, just a little side note, every 4 years, what happens in Bitcoin in particular is that half as much is available versus the previous 4 years.
So the supply shrinks.
So the amount that's produced shrinks every 4 years. So only 21 million Bitcoins will ever exist on Earth. That's going to wrap up in the year 2140, so we'll be long gone. But when Bitcoin originally started, each block that was produced created 50 Bitcoins. And then in 2016, it halved to 12 and a half, or I'm sorry. Yeah. Then so the first was 50, then it was 25. Now we are in the 12 and a half.
Wow.
Per block. And in 2020, it's going to halve again. So six and a quarter. And so what happens is as the demand goes higher, as the whole world really starts to understand this, because only about 1% of the population is involved in crypto right now. So as they start to understand it, they want in, right? And now there's suddenly less being produced. And one of the things that happened really early on when there was that really high production was that the Bitcoins have very little value, so people would mine and create lots of them or have lots of them and then lose their keys to their wallets or throw out whatever they needed to access them. So I've heard stories of people losing 900 Bitcoins that had, value of a couple dollars. Yeah, and they can't retrieve it. So there's a lot of that large quantity from the beginning that isn't
unlocked or whatever.
And it will never be.
Never. Oh,
There's nothing you can do if you lose your keys. That's the caveat. Yeah.
That must be so frustrating.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't.
Well, it was like a couple dollars at the time,
I'm glad I'm not going through that. I think I'd feel like maybe go crazy.
Yeah. So to answer your question, if supply and demand are working in favor of cryptocurrency, which they will, then it's in the landlord's best interest to want to receive.
Accumulate it in whatever way, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Very cool. So, personally, and that doesn't have to be related to real estate at all, and you might have answered this question already when you were talking about the impact it's having on a global scale and the future of the economy, but what are you the most personally excited about crypto? And short term, let's bring it to short term, like this year, 2018. What are you like, yeah, this is really exciting? I
think just the education piece and really in kind of the new company that I formed, yes, I'm going to help people get involved in that whole world, but I'm mostly excited to go out and educate people and show them that this is about the other 6 billion.
And how to interact with that, right?
And how people, including us as Americans, have control over what's ours in terms of money for the first time through this, because we have a very false sense of security about how our money is backed and what money really is, because money only has value because we give it value, right? So we in the real estate, when we say we're negotiating or talking about the value of a house, it's like at the end of the day, the value is only what somebody's willing to pay for it. And that's always a very fluid concept, obviously. Yeah, well, our money is backed by debt, so that's awesome. And if anybody thinks the gold standard is still a thing, it actually went out in the 70s, so it's like an urban legend that's still going on.
Some changes have happened since then, right? And so this is another one. And obviously, you've done a lot of time, educating yourself and being positioning yourself to know and understand crypto. And I know you're helping other people, and so if somebody wants to reach out to you and be like, hey Nicole, I'm interested in crypto, I just need like some guidance, what's the best way for somebody to reach out to you and to get started?
Yeah, so you can look me up on Facebook. My name is Nicole Spencer. My business is Asheville Crypto Consulting. I just branded this, so the website's still in progress. And then I don't know if you can post like my email address and contact info as well. Yeah, I'm happy to help people get started. And I help people get started with this in 2 ways. I think I'm really big on the education piece first. And then after some challenging lessons that were learned, I help people get involved in 2 ways. The first is through an educational platform that I'm a member of and that I help other people become members of, which is so cool because it walks people through everything from the history of money to how Bitcoin was created to where we are today. And then it helps people learn how to read charts, basically like stock markets, so that they can do a little bit of day trading and create some micro profits, which is nothing in my background is about that. So it's really cool to be walked through step by step around this, and then also see how it applies to cryptocurrency. So if you do, a couple day trades and you make 1% here, 2% there, 3% here,
baby steps.
Yeah, it accumulates over time. So that's the first way. And I think you really need to know what you're getting into when you get into this, because over 1,500 cryptocurrencies. Things are very flashy. They're very appealing. Somebody posts on Facebook about this new initial coin offering, people buy in, and that's what happens, and people lose a lot of money doing that. So this is a great system, and they do education every single week. Like I have 3 webinars with them this week. So it's a really cool thing to get involved in. And then the second side of that is I help people get involved in crypto mining. So mining is the process of transaction verification, essentially, when somebody wants to pay in Bitcoin or when there's a transaction happening. You cannot mine Bitcoin in your basement anymore.
You used to, right?
You could. You used to be able to.
Back in the day, yeah.
It would never be profitable now because there are huge mining pools, mostly owned by China, but the one that I'm involved in, has their main facility in Iceland. They're opening one in Montana in June, I believe it is. And so we have about $173 million worth of computers. And when you invest, you're essentially buying your own hardware, and you can visit these facilities. They're very transparent, and we are visible on the blockchain. So it's a legit thing. They're actually mining. Other mining companies will say that they are, and then they take your money a year later and disappear. And this one's been around. It's one of the longest standing mining companies, and mostly American founders, I believe, also. So it's a network that's invite only, and I can help people get started with mining Bitcoin or some of the other altcoins.
Kind of just depends which direction they want to go, like the shorter term gains or the longer term play, right?
Yeah, and I recommend both. I actually using the day trading piece to fund mining pools.
That makes sense.
And you can and once you really start to understand these things, both platforms will actually pay you for referring other people. Okay. So you can make money in a couple of different ways.
Good. So there's lots of different opportunities.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. I know I learned a lot, and hopefully everybody did as well. And we'll make sure your contact information gets there.
Awesome.
And so just, we'll follow up on that and have you on like maybe near the end of the year to see what changes have happened and if we any more like things have changed as far as real estate and application of everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Thank
awesome.
you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you, Nicole.
Yes.
Thank you all. Hope you all enjoyed it. I know I learned a lot. If you learned a lot, give us a share and make sure your friends find out about this as well. Let's go.